promoter classification norms during the IPO process. Ladakh gets 5 new districts: Zanskar, Dras, Sham, Nubra and Changfang. The Home Minister says the new districts will take the benefits meant for the people to their doorsteps. Russia launches massive air attack on Kyiv as Ukraine's military warned of missile and drone strikes. Israel, Hezbollah exchange heavy gunfire. Hezbollah fires more than 200 projectiles. Israel declares a 48-hour state of emergency, shuts down its main airport for several hours. Good evening and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us on Profit 360. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. Now, as always, we begin with a look at the market action today. Now, it is a day of cheer as the bulls return to the Lal Street. All sectors except PSU banks and media ended the day in the green, and Harsh has all the details on this. Harsh, so it appeared to be a bull run really on the Lal Street.
Well, a strong day in markets to start the week, at least on the benchmarks. Even the broader markets did fairly well, given the fact that they outperformed the Nifty 50 last week. So they've started off on a fairly resilient note. The advanced decline in the positive, the breadth of the market decently strong to start the week off. But really all the action was within the Nifty 50 counters. We saw good traction, especially in IT. Something like an HCL Tech did very, very well. Metal stocks were in focus. They did very well in trade today. You saw both banking, but especially private banking within that entire banking pack participate well as well in trade today. Among the top contributors were heavyweights. Reliance on the back of AGM, HDFC Bank doing fairly well and chipping in its set of contributions on the Nifty. And within the IT as well, you saw HCL Tech do very, very well, up nearly 5% at close. We held on to the 25,000 mark, which is the key positive. Where it comes to broader markets now, given the fact that we saw a good outperformance last week, today's performance not bad at all. Around 0.5% higher, both on the Nifty mid-cap as well as the small-cap indices. Some specific stocks in play, of course, we saw something like a Paytm down 5% on the back of SEBI pulling up the promoter group on promoter classification. And we also saw good traction on the positive side in the last half hour or so on Aarti Drugs. Those were some big movers intraday in trade today. Aarti Drugs approving a buyback for 900 rupees a piece, a 50% upside, even from very close to 50% upside, even from close over here on the buyback price actually. Now, just in terms of some of the other big movers, IT did well, of course. We spoke about metals, but oil and gas stocks were also in focus. You saw NTPC, ONGC do very, very well on the benchmark as well. But overall, it was a solid day of trade with the benchmarks leading the rest of the market.
All right, Harsh, thank you very much for that. In fact, as the Nifty reclaimed the 25,000 mark, here's Dinshaw Irani of Helios Capital on what's next for the index and the markets going ahead.
I don't think the rate cut is going to be exciting enough for us per se. By the way, if you go back in history, normally the rate cuts are followed by, the first rate cut. You don't see much of euphoria because already up to that rate cut, the euphoria has already been built up. So global markets are, I think, more or less discounting that. Given the domestic flows that you asked about, the foreign flows into India, I don't think there's going to happen in a rush, given that the way the capital gains were given out. The increase happened in July. You must have noticed that after that, only the FII selling was happening. Prior to that, they were actually buyers every day. But from here on, they've been selling, except on days where there's this massive insider offerings, which they have lapped up with that discount coming through. So I don't see that happening in a big way. Maybe once the aggressive cuts start off, that's when you'll see the flows coming back into India.
Now, the Reserve Bank of India has launched Unified Lending Interface, or ULI, for faster loan dispersal. Now, the ULI is expected to play a similar role as UPI did in consumer payment space. And Vishy is now joining us to explain to us how this could potentially be a game changer. Hi, Vishy. So what's your take on it? To begin with, of course, explain to us what the RBI is intending to do with this.
Right, Nupur. So this is essentially a rechristening of a product that the RBI had piloted last year. Back then, it was called the Public Tech Platform for Frictionless Credit. That was a very, very mouthful of a name. But currently, the new name that the RBI has given to this entire product is ULI, or the Unified Lending Interface. How does it work? Well, essentially, what this interface does is it collects information about a borrower from all available sources, which could be the tax department, it could be Aadhaar, it could be land documents, it could be other sort of securities that this person owns, and will give you a likelihood of this person being eligible for a certain loan or not, and thereby the customer can avail whatever loans that they want in a relatively short span of time. Currently, it takes about roughly 8 to 10 days before a loan is cleared off, even for especially for the MSME and agri sector to which this is focused at. So yes, time will come down, and yes, this will make loans way easier for the borrowers. But remember that at this stage, it is still in the pilot stages. The RBI is talking about launching a nationwide sort of rollout, but that is still some time away. There's no timeline specifically given for that, Nupur. But lastly, what this will do is likely do for credit what UPI did for consumer payments.
So, Vishy, essentially what you're saying is that the intention is a noble one. We'll have to wait and watch for how that actually pans out. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, moving on, there's bad news for Paytm. The market regulator, SEBI, has sent a show-cause notice to Vijay Shekhar Sharma and the board of directors from 2021 over non-compliance with promoter classification norms during the IPO process. Now, Rishabh Bhatnagar joins us and has more details on this. Hi, Rishabh. Rishabh, take us through what SEBI has said in its show-cause notice, and what could it potentially mean for Vijay Shekhar Sharma and the company?
Right. What we're learning is that this is a show-cause notice that has been sent to a few board of directors that were on the board of Paytm back in 2021, as well as the founder CEO, Vijay Shekhar Sharma. While we do not have access to the notice yet, but what we know is that there are certain entities that are in receipt of this notice, and this is now in pertaining to the non-compliance of the IPO classification norms. So the heart of this matter is that Vijay Shekhar Sharma was not classified as a promoter when he probably should have been. A leading advisory firm called IIAS has also pointed this issue out back in 2023. And the fact that Sharma's status during the IPO is under question. Now, this is another regulatory issue. As most of you would remember, back in January 2024 is when Paytm Payments Bank was pulled up by the RBI for a whole lot of issues, and thereby we've seen what that has done to Paytm stock. Now, what's interesting is that the BSE and the National Stock Exchange both have taken cognizance of this news, and Paytm's reply is expected to come out soon on this matter. And what we're also seeing is that this notice could make the path for Paytm's payment aggregator license even more difficult. It recently got the government's nod on whether it would be able to reapply for that payment aggregator license, but that seems unlikely given that there is another regulatory issue that has come up. Back to you.
All right. Thank you very much for the moment, Rishabh, for joining us. And now we are joined by Mr. Sriram Subramaniam, MD and founder of InGovern. Mr. Subramaniam, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Now, Mr. Subramaniam, what is your view of what's happened? Of course, at the heart of the matter is whether Vijay Shekhar Sharma should be classified as a promoter or as employee while filing the IPO documents. So how do you see this, and what do you see as its impact now?
Firstly, this IPO happened almost 3 years ago, and the RHP, that is the draft, would have been filed with SEBI, and the lawyers of the merchant bankers and other due diligence itself would have gone through the legal process of scrutinizing the classification, of scrutinizing the shareholding of various entities, including Vijay Shekhar Sharma. From at that time, the norms which were prevalent were any single entity holding more than 10% should be classified as promoter. Anyone holding below 10% should be classified as a non-promoter. And that's how Vijay Shekhar Sharma was classified as a non-promoter, because I think at that time he held less than 10%. But subsequently, one is SEBI right in now looking retrospectively 3 years back and seeing whether they only approved that IPO. So from that perspective, did they scrutinize the papers properly? So this brings to the question, can they look back and declassify now retrospectively? The entire issue again became as to whether when Paytm started issuing ESOPs, one of the, this one was Vijay Shekhar Sharma itself. So to that extent, whether ESOPs should be issued, that's a second matter. But a third matter is SEBI itself has floated a discussion paper saying that they need to move, Indian markets need to move away from the definition of promoter to persons in control. So to that extent, I think the concept of promoter itself has outlived its usefulness. India is one of the few markets in the world to have this definition of promoter. So it's not clear as to what is the promoter role doing in that sense. And SEBI itself has been evolving its own definition. So to that extent, the thinking has been changing. So it would be interesting to see whether SEBI will now revisit what it only approved 3 years ago.
Right, absolutely. So, in a sense, this perhaps is an attempt by SEBI to hold directors responsible for more, for potential compliance issues. Now, as far as the company is concerned, this is sort of another setback to them in terms from the regulators as well. So, how do you see this going forward for them?
I wouldn't think this is as big a setback as the RBI action, for example. This, if anything, puts the spotlight on SEBI itself. SEBI approved the IPO prospectus, right? And at that time, the classification, if Paytm had incorrectly disclosed, that is a different thing. But Paytm has disclose all the data, or I would think as disclosed in the draft red herring prospectus correctly, and lawyers and other lawyers of the merchant bankers, etc., would have done the scrutiny of the classification. So to that extent, if SEBI has to censure Paytm, it also has to censure itself, because it has to pull up its own officers who gave the approval for the IPO then.
So you see this as quite the double-edged sword over there. Mr. Subramaniam, appreciate your joining us on the show. Thank you.
I think retrospectively it changes, right? I mean, they only approved it and now they can't go back and change it retrospectively.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. All right, now moving on, the Union government over the weekend has notified the Unified Pension Scheme, or the UPS. Now, this will now replace the old pension scheme, or the OPS. Remember, the government had issued a new pension scheme plan, but due to a lot of opposition, had to rework on it. Now, Maharashtra has become the first state to implement the Unified Pension Scheme. There are multiple questions to consider, and it has become the subject of a heated political debate as well. What is it and how will it impact different age groups? Pallavi Nahata joins us and brings us more details. So, hi Pallavi, break down the clutter for us and explain to us the difference between two, and how should employees essentially be choosing?
All right, so basically, while the Unified Pension Scheme does meet the demand of an assured pension of 50% of the last drawn basic average salary, it stays with the system where the employees do continue to contribute towards their pension, and the entire burden does not fall on the government alone. While that's prudent in terms of government finances, that's the part that most labor unions are unhappy about. They're saying that what works for them in the Unified Pension Scheme is again the fact that pension is assured 50% of the average basic pay drawn over the last 12 months prior to the superannuation for a minimum qualifying service of 25 years. This figure changes when we talk about those who have been in government service for 10 years or less. So that's what works for them. What also works for them is the assured family pension, and the fact that this time around, there's also an assured minimum pension of 10,000 rupees per month on superannuation after serving a minimum 10 years of service. But like I said, what's not working for them is the fact that even this scheme is contributory in nature and the employees are expected to contribute 10%. The government's contributing 18%. That's higher than what it was previously contributing at about 14.5%. The fiscal impact also remains a tad unclear at this point. The government's outgo, for instance, will depend on a number of factors like how many people actually opt for the unified pension scheme. At this point, it is optional. Also, the market returns and a lot of those factors, how many state governments to actually go to the unified pension scheme. So far, Maharashtra has already said that it is going to be following the unified pension scheme. That's likely to come into effect from next year.
All right. Pallavi, thank you very much for joining us and breaking that down for us and, in fact, bringing us all the aspects of it. Moving on, it's a setback for Punekars who love their Burger King restaurant. Now, the Bombay High Court has temporarily stopped Pune joint from using the name. Now, this is because the American fast food giant has gone on to appeal, and Charu Singh is joining us and she's tracking the story. Charu, hi, take us through the latest. Of course, it would appear to be a setback at this point in time for the joint.
Hi Nupur, so let's try to understand this matter in a chronological manner. In the year 1954, we have Burger King coming into our landscape and becoming a worldwide famous global food chain. Meanwhile, it had not yet come to the Indian market yet and it was not famous here. But in 1992, an Irani couple in Pune starts their own burger joint by the name of Burger King. Now this Burger King joint starts growing famous and people starts getting to know about it, and it has its own popularity and its own audience, its own people, own customers. Now suddenly Bombay is the place where Burger King comes and files a case before the Bombay High Court saying that this particular joint cannot be using the name Burger King as it is something that they have been using for a very long time globally. Now this Pune joint is saying that since our customer bases are different and you are a global giant while we are a small joint which is already doing this business for a long while now, 2 decades, we should also be allowed to use this. A Pune Civil Court recently came up with a ruling saying that this particular case is something where both the parties have not been able to prove any wrongdoing on part of each other, and that is why both of them should be allowed to use the name. Now the case has come before the Bombay High Court once again, and the Bombay High Court has asked the Pune joint to not use the name until September 6th. Till then it will hear the matter and we'll know what happens next.
All right, thank you very much, Charu, for bringing us those details. Moving on, SEBI has imposed a fine on businessman Anil Ambani and banned him from capital markets for 5 years in an alleged funds diversion case. Now, Ambani has said that he is reviewing the SEBI order. But the question is, how and where did the 8,800 crore rupees go? What next for Anil Ambani? Sajit, in fact, joins us with more on this. Sajit, take us through the possible options that Anil Ambani has and essentially what it means.
Loans were disbursed on fast track. There was due processes which were not followed. No field investigation was done before giving out any of the loans. No creation of security was done against those loans because these were given under the garb of working capital. There was no customer rating and no escrow account which was created there. In fact, there was no documentation which was undertaken by the company or its officials when it gave out those loans. The second big question that comes in is that where did this 8,884 crores go? The first thing is that it was first transferred to 43 entities which were directly or indirectly related to the Reliance Anil Ambani group, of which the 43 entities got nearly 8,847 crores, and this was transferred to 19 entities of the group. And of these 19 entities, 14 entities had nexus with the promoter group there. Reliance Capital, got nearly 2,359 crores, followed by Reliance Commercial, which was 2,278 crores. Reliance Infra, which is a listed company and which saw some correction on Friday, got nearly 1,559 crores. Reliance Home Finance, ultimately received some 1,500 crores back. There were some other companies like Reliance Big Entertainment, Broadcast, which got over 200 crores each.
All right, Sajid, thank you very much for all those details. Now, some good news coming in on the jobs front. Chintan Thakkar, Director and Chief Financial Officer at Info Edge, has shared his thoughts on the uptick in the hiring trends across sectors. Now, pharma and insurance segments seem to be doing well, and there is an overall positive view of the recruitment within the IT sector. Listen.
We are seeing an improved trend over there in IT as well as in non-IT. Non-IT has been kind of steady even during FY24 when we were otherwise overall flattish, and that trend continues. Some of the verticals inside, when I talk of non-IT, non-IT is not a very homogeneous sector, but if I kind of break it down further, business, financial services are doing good. Pharma companies seems to be doing well. Insurance companies seems to be doing well. So these are all the brighter spots. And of course, we are seeing some green shoots in IT as well. So we are very hopeful that the recruitment trends will hold up and it will continue to grow.
All right, it's now time for our special series on personal finance. On today's episode of Adulting 101, we are focusing on a crucial but often overlooked aspect of retirement, which is planning for your healthcare. In this segment, let's explore why it's smart for young people to start early and how you can manage planning for retirement healthcare effectively.
Government jobs often come with comprehensive healthcare benefits covering many medical expenses. But if you're in the private sector, where coverage might be limited, it's essential to plan and save for your healthcare needs. Here's how you can start planning for healthcare expenses to use in your retirement. Health insurance is a key component of your planning. Individual health plans can start from as low as 3,000 rupees per year with coverage around 5 lakh rupees. These plans can be more affordable for young individuals. Some examples of such plans are HDFC Ergo Health Suraksha, Star Health Family, Health Optima, ICICI Lombard Complete Health Insurance, Bajaj Alliance General Insurance, and more. Starting to save early can have a big impact. For example, if you save 500 rupees per month in a healthcare fund and invest it in a fixed deposit or a low-risk investment with an average annual return of 6%, by the time you're 65, you could accumulate around lakhs of rupees. Remember, even a 5-day hospital stay can result in substantial expenses, especially if unexpected complications arise. That's why having an emergency fund is crucial. Did you know that there are tax benefits on healthcare insurance premiums? Yes, these benefits come under Section 80D of the Income Tax Act. You can claim deductions up to Rs 25,000 for premiums paid for yourself and your family. Planning for healthcare expenses is a vital part of securing your financial future. By making informed decisions and preparing now, you can ensure you're ready for unexpected medical costs and protect your future well-being.
Now, the Ministry of Home Affairs has announced the creation of 5 new districts in the Union Territory of Ladakh. These new districts are Zanskar, Dras, Sham, Nubra and Changthang. Previously, Ladakh had only 2 districts, Leh and Kargil. With the addition of these 5 new districts, the total number of districts now goes up to 7. The Home Minister has taken to social media platform X and made the announcement. Now, the tweet said that, and I quote, "In pursuit of Prime Minister Modi's vision to build a developed and prosperous Ladakh, the MHA has decided to create 5 new districts in the Union Territory. The new districts, namely Zanskar, Dras, Sham, Nubra, Changthang, will take the benefits meant for the people to their doorsteps by bolstering governance and in every nook and cranny. The Modi government is committed to creating abundant opportunities for the people of Ladakh," unquote. Well, on to a possible Me Too movement that's emerging from Kerala. Actor Meenu Munir has accused stars M. Mukesh and Jayasuriya of sexual harassment. This comes after the Justice Hema Committee report highlighting rampant sexual abuse in the Malayalam film industry. We have with us Uma Sudhir, and she takes us through the timeline of this.
The Hema Commission report on the condition of women in the Malayalam film industry came at a time when the country was in fact debating workplace safety, especially after the unfortunate incident that happened in Kolkata that had a doctor being sexually assaulted and murdered inside a hospital. Hema Commission report was quite scathing about the Malayalam film industry, said that there is casting couch significantly present in the industry, that women are intimidated physically, verbally and sexually, and also that the industry is controlled by a group of about 15 people, all of them men, actors, directors and producers. Subsequently, it's as though a Pandora's box has been opened, with many women coming out with allegations saying that they had made this complaint in the past and that they had not been taken seriously, and there was demand on the left front government to in fact take action. And yesterday Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan held a meeting with several top officers there and constituted a special investigation team that will be headed by a woman officer that will look into these allegations of misconduct, misbehavior, sexual assault and harassment that the women are alleging. Subsequently, we have seen women who have come out and taken many prominent names in the industry, and on Sunday, Siddiq, a prominent actor who has acted in about 350 films and has also been a producer and director, he had to resign as secretary of the Association of Malayalam Movie Artists. He had in fact taken up the post only 2 months ago, following his predecessor also had resigned following allegations of sexual harassment by a young artist, junior artist, and Siddiq has now in fact filed a complaint with the DGP alleging that the allegations made against him are baseless.
Now, moving on to the top international news story, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has asked for a joint European backing to thwart the Russian operations. Now, he also drew comparisons of the European and unity to the ongoing crisis in the Middle East. Zelensky's appeal comes after Kyiv was attacked by Russian forces this morning in a series of missile and drone attacks during peak rush hour. At least 3 people have reportedly died due to the attack. Now, according to the Ukrainian Air Force, Russia developed 11 Tu-95 strategic bombers in air and deployed 11 Tu-95 strategic bombers in the air and launched several missiles. Well, in fact, that's all we have time for right now on Profit 360, but we leave you with pictures of celebrations of Janmashtami. Celebrations are being held across the country.